I see things others can't. A blazing inferno raged across a shimmering capital city that had stood on the continent for thousands of years. Hear things others don't. War cries, curses, and dying screams spread throughout the city as the invaders mercilessly attacked everything in their path. Shed tears when others won't. The shrill sound of infants and children wailing in their mothers' hands peppered the air like a haunting accompaniment to the symphony of Earth. All around them, their parents searched for a safe place to hide from the one-sided massacre that was happening all around them. And fight when others don't. A red-headed half-elf boy looked at the vast horde of monsters that were poised to destroy everything he had ever held dear in his life. Even so, he walked toward them fearlessly as several men and women marched alongside him, inspired by his courage. I seek the monsters you fear the most. The half-elf raised his hand above him, and a thrum of energy shook the ground around him. A horde of undead clawed from the ground and stood from the recently deceased. I chase the nightmares that plague your sweetest dreams. I walk in the darkness so that others may see the light. I fight the creatures that threaten this world with all my might. At the sound of his proclamation, a giant bone dragon landed in front of the half-elf and bowed its head in respect. The red-headed boy patted the beast's head before jumping on its back, preparing to fight alongside his undead legion. With one mighty flap of its tattered wings, the bone dragon soared toward the sky and uttered a deafeningly defiant roar. Its master stood straight on its back like a sword and looked down at the bloodthirsty horde of monsters that were slowly advancing in his direction. My existence may have been forgotten in this world, but I will burn a reminder in your ranks so you may understand the error of your chosen path. Now burn, my dragon! The half-elf pointed down at the unsuspecting army as his bone dragon opened its maw to unleash a blistering purple rain of dragon's breath. If you were given the chance to live the life you'd always dreamed of, would you do it even if there were strings attached? Some would gladly take this chance, while others would feel more cautious or even ignore it completely. Lucian stared up at the unbelievably beautiful angel that hovered above him. A chance to live a life different from my pitiful one on Earth that ended a few hours ago. He gulped, his mind made up. In a heartbeat. Welcome to the Heaven's Door Project. As the word left the angel's mouth, Lucian felt his body propel impossibly fast through space and time. And when he opened his eyes, he found himself inside of a shady office being watched by the same gorgeous angel who had spoken to him after he had died. Where am I? The angel slid a long document over the table to Lucian. Its header read, Character Creation Form. You're in the celestial realm. Well, an office in it. Now fill out this form, we don't have all day. Lucian gazed at the options in front of him. It's like a multiple choice questionnaire. I just gotta fill out the options and I'll be golden. Should be easy enough. Okay, question 1. Hair color. Blonde is good, but also pretty common. Maybe I should go with silver or white. The chubby young man mused to himself as he scratched his head. The angel sighed. It was only the first question, and here he was already having a hard time choosing what he wanted for his next life. I'm gonna go with red. Lucian circled the option on the paper, and to his amazement, the other options grayed themselves out. So no takebacks. On to question number 2, eye color. Lucian sighed at the dizzying number of options laid before him, from natural tones like brown and hazel to neon and pastel hues. After thinking for a few minutes, Lucian circled the option for green eyes. I don't know, something about having red hair and green eyes just reminds me of the hero of my favorite novel growing up. All right, next is sex. I think I'm gonna stick with being a man. Okay, then weight, height, build, and complexion. Lucian hurried through the options, circling what he felt would make for the most attractive physique. However, his hand came to a quick stop when it came to a section marked race. Human, elf, dwarf, demon, beastkin, or dragon? His hand hovered over the circle next to elf. Lucian knew that good looks and long lifespans were core traits that all elves possessed, but he wasn't sure how the world he'd be reborn into would work. For all I know, the elves might all just stick to themselves. And I'd still like to be able to hang out with humans as well. Half-elf it is. A sense of relief washed over him as the other race options grayed themselves out. The angel chuckled at Lucian's choice and flipped to the next page of the questionnaire. All right, handsome. Next comes lineage. You can be a royal, a noble, someone from an influential bloodline, or a run-of-the-mill commoner. Lucian stared at these 4 options with a serious expression on his face. Royalty sounds great, but that could mean having to deal with infighting for the throne or having backstabbing siblings. Plus, being a commoner is a great choice if I want to end up as a famous hero. But it'd be really hard to pull myself up by my bootstraps, and that's all without knowing what sort of family I'd be born into. I want to be a noble. That way, I get the perks of high birth without any of the responsibility. He made his choice and flipped to the next page. So next comes peepee size? Lucian did a double take at the words written on the paper. Never in a billion years did he think he'd ever have the choice to change such an integral part of himself. This has to be a joke, right? A mischievous smile spread across the angel's lips as she shook her head. Not at all. You can choose any size you want, from something manageable to something even a horse would envy. Damn. Indeed. However, I should warn you that there is a catch. If you choose something tiny, say 2 inches, then you'll receive 6 legendary items of your choosing. If you decide to go the human average of 5 inches, you'll only get 1 rare item. And if you go beyond that, to 7 inches and above, well, that's a big enough gift by itself. Lucian gnashed his teeth in annoyance. Damn you for baiting me with legendary items in exchange for my happiness! He carefully shaded in the bubble next to his choice, and then peered up to look at the angel who wore a teasing smile on her face. Should I have gone even bigger? Lucian cleared his throat. So, what comes next? Just the fun stuff. Let me just double-check these again. Lucian quickly skimmed through the remaining minor questions on the character creation form, double-checking to ensure he had answered everything to his satisfaction. With a nod, he handed the completed document back to the angel. She took the form and gave it a cursory glance, verifying all fields were filled out. Seeing no issues, the angel gestured for the chubby young man to follow her. Right this way, Lucian. 5 minutes later, they arrived in a vast open space, countless galaxies sparkling above them in a marvelous celestial tableau. Lucian stood transfixed, mouth agape as he gazed upward at the heavenly sight. I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. Stop gawking and keep up. What are you, some backwater rube? The angel snapped irritably. Sorry, Lucian stammered, hurrying after her retreating form. This angel was nothing like the benevolent beings he had always imagined. She had a downright unpleasant disposition. If I was meaner, I'd just call her a bitch. But still, this is just another thing that will apply to my new life. Just because I have expectations about how people or races should behave doesn't mean they'll stick to the script. 10 minutes of walking brought them to a quaint cottage nestled amid the breathtaking scenery. The angel rapped sharply on the door. Your Excellency, Mackwell Xochitl, I've brought the soul you requested, she called out while ushering Lucian inside. Stepping into the room, Lucian spotted an elderly man sporting an enraptured expression as he ogled his computer screen. The geezer froze upon realizing he had company. Oh, yes, hello there. I wasn't expecting you so quickly. I was, preoccupied. Leaping to his feet, the old man scrambled to block their view, but not before Lucian caught a brief glimpse of an anime girl in a compromising position. Mackwell Xochitl fat-fingered his keyboard in an attempt to leave the adult website. However, in his haste, his sloppy attempt at concealment was further foiled by the loud moans that blared through his surround sound speakers. The angel's face contorted in revulsion as she glared at the mortified man like something she scraped off her shoe. He coughed lightly and averted his gaze, withering under her scathing look. Like I said, I was preoccupied. Lucian sighed to himself. Am I really going to be fine with these people? He eyed the old lecher who was failing spectacularly at maintaining any shred of dignity. Clearly, he hadn't expected anyone to barge in unannounced while he was watching content unfit for innocent eyes. Makwilzochitl slammed his finger on the power button to silence his sinful machine.
Don't just stand there, boy. Tell me your name.
Lucian gave the older man a strained smile, mercifully grateful for a chance to change the subject. I'm Lucian, sir.
A fine name.
Makwilzochitl smirked as he sized Lucian up.
Well then, Lucian. Did my assistant Himea fill you in?
Lucian shook his head as he glanced at the angel who crossed her arms over her chest. So that's what her name is. He turned his attention back to the person who had summoned him. All she told me was that whatever you're doing is highly confidential, and then she had me fill out a ton of forms for my rebirth.
I see,
Makwilzochitl mused, as he stroked the white hairs of his beard.
Before we continue, allow me to introduce myself properly. I, young Lucian, am the god of gamblers, Makwilzochitl. It's quite the mouthful, I know, so you might as well call me Max for short. I created Heaven's Door to send a lucky soul to a particular world while evading the notice of certain fuddy-duddy higher-ups who are irritatingly strict about rules and regulations.
Wait, are you telling me that what we're doing here is illegal?
Ha! It's only a crime if you get caught, my boy. So long as me, Himea, and yourself keep our mouths shut, you'll be right as rain. Probably.
Nervous laughter escaped Lucian's lips. Funny. Can I still back out? Max waved off his concern, producing another document with a flourish. It resembled the one Lucian just completed.
Since I handpicked you to be my guinea pig, gallant hero spearheading my wonderful project, it's only right that I sweeten the deal by offering you some complimentary perks,
Max declared, flashing a grin that would put used car salesmen to shame.
You may choose only one, so take your time and choose wisely.
Lucian held the form that the god of gamblers handed to him and read its contents without any expectations. There's just so much to pick from. I mean, a random high-tier skill would give me a pretty big leg up, and choosing infinite mana would basically be a cheat code no matter what I end up facing. Himea looked over Lucian's shoulder at the paper in his hand. You sure you don't want to increase your charm stat? Max could make it so high that even a rock would fall in love with you. Who knows? Maybe then you'll be able to put that size of yours to good use. Or if you have infinite stamina, there's no chance you couldn't put that to good use. I didn't even think about that. Lucian squinted at an option he had never heard of before. Hey, Max, what's a gotcha pull? The god of gamblers' eyes sparkled like a kid in a candy store.
Ever play a video game where you give up tokens for a chance to summon allies or weapons? That's a gotcha pull. If you choose that, you'll get 10 random items fit for whatever world you'll end up in. You're guaranteed one ultra-rare item, artifact, weapon, or waifu, though whether or not she'll love you is completely out of my hands.
Holy shit, this is all so flipping amazing! Lucian felt his heart race with excitement as he struggled to keep the paper from shaking in his hands. It's like Himea said, no matter what I choose, I'll be starting my new life with a massive leg up over my previous shell of an existence. Lucian licked his lips and looked over at Max. Is there any way for me to choose more than one thing? Like maybe the unlimited mana and charm? Himea burst into laughter at Lucian's side. There you go, thinking with your pee-pee instead of your head. I'm surrounded by idiots. But you were the one who suggested. Max held up his hand to stop Lucian from speaking. The god of gamblers offered him a terse, consolatory smile.
Sorry, kid, but I'm the god of gamblers, not Santa Claus. That means you can only choose one thing, not 3 or 5, just one. Understood?
Yeah.
Great. So weigh the pros and cons in your head, and when you're ready to make a decision, just let me know.
Lucian nodded his head. Even though he'd been denied having more than one gift, he was still glad that he asked Max to consider making an exception. Still, from the moment Lucian saw the paper, he knew what to pick. Your Excellency, I've made a decision. Lucian studied the list of boons Max offered to give him upon his rebirth. The god of gamblers' expression grew serious.
I'll ask you again, Lucian. You want a random high-tier skill as your freebie, correct?
Lucian nodded his head, his mind already made up. Yes, Your Excellency. It's the choice that made the most sense to me. Haimea raised an eyebrow at Lucian's decision. The angel had not expected the young man to make such a choice, not when so many other tantalizing options had been laid out before him.
Understood.
Max smiled and clapped his hand thrice. Suddenly, the form in Lucian's hand burst into flames. The embers swirled toward his chest and merged with his body, but Max wasn't finished. The form Lucian filled out earlier also ignited, its ashes flying into him. A surge of unknown power flowed through Lucian's being, suffusing his very soul with warmth. Still basking in the afterglow, he abruptly found himself floating in space beneath a sea of galaxies. Max stood to his right and stared into Lucian's eyes, while Haimea, the terminally unpleasant angel, hovered on his left.
Lucian, do you know why I chose you out of countless souls in the multiverse to be the first candidate of the Heaven's Door project?
Not really. Max smiled, patting Lucian's shoulder.
Because you struggled to live until the bitter end. You could have given up at any time, but you never took the easy way out. No matter how bad things got, and let's face it, times were rough, you never sought the quick relief of death.
Lucian met his gaze solemnly. That's because I'm a coward. I was more afraid of death than I was of my shitty existence, so I fought to survive. There's nothing glorious about that. Chuckling, Max ruffled the young man's hair.
Perhaps, but you're no coward. Living takes courage, and I pray you'll be even braver in your next life.
Lucian fought back a wave of sadness that threatened to overwhelm him. He's the first person to ever encourage me to do anything. Growing up, he constantly heard things like, "You're just baggage, you should die," or "You were a mistake who shouldn't have been born." Those cruel words made me want to end it all sometimes, just to escape that hell. But my fear of death was stronger, a true coward to the end. Lucian bit his lip, feeling tears prick at his eyes. Damn it, can souls even cry? I'd rather die again than let anyone see me weep. Lucian breathed in and out to regain his composure. He looked at Max. Your Excellency, what exactly is Heaven's Door Project meant to achieve?
It will change the fate of a very special world, Lucian. You're the chosen one who will lead it into a new era and a brighter tomorrow.
I don't think I'm qualified for such a huge responsibility.
Did I mention this world is filled with beautiful women? Play your cards right and you might even score multiple wives.
Lucian pounded his chest like a general marching to war. Say no more, Max. You couldn't have chosen a better man for the job. Hell, I'll even conquer that world in your name.
World conquest, huh? I'll allow it. A real man should dream big. You're either betting it all or you're bust. Either way, you've done something worthwhile.
Haimea glared at the two buffoons, a giant cannon appearing behind her. Her patience hit its limit. It was time to wrap this farce up. Seeing her expression, a wry smile crossed Max's face. He beckoned Lucian closer.
Come, it's time to begin your journey.
Waving his hand, Max conjured a door out of thin air in front of Lucian. He flung it open and dragged Lucian through. Haimea followed, slamming it shut behind them. A sign hanging over the door read, Hyper Super Mega Rebirth Cannon. Holy crap! Lucian gawked up at a massive cannon sitting in the center of the room. This is so cool!
Glad you like it,
Max laughed, patting his shoulder.
This baby cost a fortune to build. Haimea, dear, fire her up and run the pre-launch checks.
On it. She strode to the control panel and began flipping switches and turning dials. As the cannon hummed to life, Max leaned in conspiratorially.
I call it the Simp Cannon. The Hyper Super Mega Rebirth Cannon.
Shouldn't that be HSMRC, not Simp?
Kid, don't sweat the details. I say it's the Simp Cannon, so the Simp Cannon it is.
Okay then. Haimea rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath. Good grief. He's spouting more nonsense than usual. I swear, if he hadn't raised me, I'd have ditched him ages ago for a less deranged deity to serve. A couple of seconds later, the system check lights on the control panel displayed an all clear. Your Excellency, all readings are green. Ready to initiate the launch sequence on your mark. Max nodded, giving Lucian's shoulder a reassuring squeeze.
It's almost time. Are you ready to start that new journey of yours?
Definitely.
Perfect. Now let's get you loaded up.
How exactly are you going to... Ah! In one swift motion, Max grabbed Lucian by the waist and soared to the cannon's barrel.
Fire in the hole!
With a quick shove, Max unceremoniously stuffed Lucian down the firing chamber until he clanged to the bottom of the barrel. Ow! My back!
Max roared with laughter. You still in one piece down there, Lucian?
No, I'm not okay, you lunatic. I'm not some cannonball you can just hurl around all willy-nilly. That hurt.
Glad to hear you're fine. Any final words?
Yeah. Fuck you. Still snickering, Max signaled Haimea with a thumbs up.
Initiating Heaven's Door launch sequence,
she intoned, fingers flying across the keypad.
Calibrating trajectory.
The simp cannon rotated right, aiming at a distant violet galaxy. Coordinates locked, Haimea flipped open the glass case shielding the firing controls.
We are locked on target and cleared to fire. Commence countdown,
Max bellowed. Haimea nodded.
Launch in 3, 2, 1. Simp cannon, fire!
Lucian stared at his hand in amazement as his body began to dissipate into a ball of light as dense layers of concentrated magical energy wrapped around him. A massive energy sphere bloomed at the cannon's tip, gathering divine power to propel his soul across the multiverse of realms. Suddenly, ominous arcs of electricity crackled across the barrel of the simp cannon. Acrid smoke began venting from its seams, coloring Max and Haimea's faces in dread. Klaxon alarms blared through the testing chamber as Max roared at Haimea.
How could we have malfunctioned now of all times? Abort the firing sequence immediately!
He thrust out his hand, wrapping Lucian's essence in a protective shell of divinity, but before it could fully encase him, the firing sequence completed. With an earth-shaking roar, a pillar of arcane energy erupted from the cannon, streaking into the heavens. The simp cannon exploded in a hail of blazing shrapnel. Max teleported to Haimea's side, raising a barrier against the deadly spray of debris. As the chaos settled, the god of gamblers surveyed the smoldering wreckage, then turned his eyes skyward where a blue comet carved a brilliant path toward the purple galaxy.
Haimea, what's Lucian's status?
The angel's fingers pounded the keys, pulling up a diagnostic of Lucian's soul. Max paled at the results that lit up the screens in front of him.
This is a nightmare!
The monitor was a sea of red errors highlighting where Lucian's spirit sustained critical damage and teetered on the brink of collapse. Haimea started to hyperventilate.
Your Excellency, Lucian's too unstable to reincarnate normally. Worst case, his soul might just cease to exist entirely.
Max took a deep breath to steady himself.
I'm well aware of the danger that I've put Lucian in, but unfortunately there's nothing I can do for the young man. Not when I've sent him to a world that was abandoned by the gods. Not even...
Max's eyes bugged out as a solution came rushing to the front of his mind.
Haimea, I need you to find my friend Ariel.
You mean the god of games? Max nodded and rose into the air with a cloud of divine power steering around him.
Tell Ariel what's happened. He'll know how to proceed, how to fix this.
Well, where are you going?
This catastrophe is on my head. The very least I can do is ensure Lucian's spirit survives.
But what can you do?
Gamble.
In a flare of golden light, the god of gamblers streaked after the blue comet that was Lucian's soul as it rapidly descended on the purple galaxy.
Max!
Max grinned recklessly as he looked back at where Haimea stood watching him.
Sorry, little lady, but I'm going all in on this one. He's going to save the world someday.
The heart-wrenching sobs of a young elven lady echoed through the night as she clutched a bundle of cloth holding her baby tight. Tears streamed down her face like rain, her clan watching with pity in their eyes. They all stood on the riverbank, bathed in the light of a full moon. It should have been a beautiful evening, stars glittering overhead, but the mother's anguished cries stripped all the wonder from the scene. Several minutes ticked by before the elven patriarch gently touched her shoulder.
My deepest condolences for your loss, Adeline.
His voice was soft with sympathy.
But our traditions are clear. We cannot lay him to rest in our ancestral grounds. I pray you understand.
Adeline nodded, still weeping.
I know our ways, but my heart is shattered. How can I abandon my baby, gone far too soon?
Her father approached, a basket lined with soft cloth cradled in his arms. It should have been a cozy bed, but Adeline's child would never feel its comfort. His life cut short barely a day after birth. The young lady pressed a final kiss to her son's brow before settling him in the basket. She then took a wooden slate from her storage ring and used her magic to carve a name on it.
I may not have given you the love and joy you deserved, but I will not deny you a name, my angel.
She used the common tongue of the world, praying that if her boy was found, the discoverer would grant him proper burial rites.
Lux,
her son's name, inscribed for all time. Slate placed beside her baby, Adeline fell into her mother's embrace, the older woman holding her close as sobs racked her body.
Allow me to bid you farewell, dear grandson,
Adeline's father murmured, voice thick with grief.
I pray that the spirits will guide your soul to the promised paradise, where we shall go when our time has come as well. Forgive us for being unable to give you a proper burial.
The patriarch of the elven clan of Entheus sighed as he looked into the basket. He knew the elders would never allow a half-blood to be interested in Ash Entheus. He thought,
Child, were I able to, I would rend our laws apart to grant you a place of honor in our soil, but my hands are tied by tradition. May you find peace, little one.
A young elven girl began to sing, an ancestral hymn to soothe the souls of departed loved ones on their eternal journey. One by one, the clan lifted their voices to join her song. With a heavy heart, Adeline's father set the basket in the river's embrace and released his hold. Adeline wailed, thrashing against her mother's protective grasp.
She means to throw herself in the water and bring him back to shore.
Sleep now, child.
The patriarch wove a slumberous enchantment over the grieving mother. As the spell took hold, Adeline slipped into her mother's arms, tears still flowing.
When I wake, I will never hold my son again.
The basket drifted along the Avonlea River, borne swiftly from the forests of Ash Entheus, where the half-elven baby was unwelcome even in death. Hours passed as the tiny vessel traveled countless miles unimpeded. River creatures paid it little heed, sensing no life within and mistaking it for mere flotsam. Suddenly, a luminous blue comet streaked across the star-strewn sky, its course shifting as if magnetically drawn to the basket. With each passing second, the cosmic projectile shrank and dimmed. Soon, all that remained was an orb of sapphire light no larger than a tennis ball. The strange sphere alighted on the baby's chest and sank into his body. Several tense minutes ticked by, then the infant's lips parted as if desperately sucking down air to fill its oxygen-starved lungs. Color slowly returned to its pallid skin. But the burst of activity was short-lived. The baby stilled, slumbering on, blissfully unaware of the dangers lurking around its fragile hiding spot.
We're nearly home, Sophie.
An elderly woman patted her steed's flank.
Let's pick up the pace so we're in time for breakfast with the others.
A honking bray answered as the head of a 3-meter-tall white hippopotamus breached the water's surface. The old woman smiled, turning her gaze to the stronghold called Wingguard in the distance. As they swam, the pair skirted past 2 massive crocodiles locked in vicious combat, the rest of their colony spectating from a cautious distance.
Typical behavior for Huntdean River this season, the woman mused. Best steer clear. Those brutes get especially ornery and aggressive while competing for mates.
Suddenly, a thin, warbling cry reached her ears. Whipping around, the old woman spied a basket caught in the current, slowly drifting perilously close to the crocodile colony.
Is that a baby? Sophie, about face now!
The white hippopotamus obeyed her master and hurriedly made a U-turn toward the basket that was only dozens of feet away from the giant crocodiles that were fighting for supremacy. The baby's cries had drawn the crocodile's attention. Half a dozen crimson eyes locked onto the basket, the promise of an easy meal overriding their natural wariness. One of the brutes lunged, prepared to engulf the basket and baby in whole in one swift chomp, only to have its jaws clamped shut as a foot stomped down on its snout. Swift as a viper, the old woman snatched up the basket and bounded away, using the crocodiles as stepping stones. With one final jump, she landed deftly on the white hippopotamus's back.
Flee now!
The hippopotamus surged forward as the thwarted crocodiles bellowed in rage behind them. Two titans of the colony moved to cut off their escape, the battle for dominance forgotten in the face of this insult. The woman clicked her tongue in annoyance.
Let's not turn this into a bigger mess than it already is. I'm taking the child, so clear a path!
The two giant crocodiles roared, which made the old lady click her tongue in annoyance.
Fine. We'll do this the hard way. Sophie, charge!
Basket tucked securely under one arm, the old lady raised her free hand, fingers weaving in an arcane pattern. Two figures manifested out of thin air and slammed into the lunging crocodiles. A deafening crack split the air as the beasts careened through the air, crashing into the river with explosive splashes. The rest of the colony froze primal terror, dousing their fury as they watched their champion so handily thrashed.
Looks like we'll be fashionably late to breakfast,
the old woman sighed wryly. Then her expression softened as she gazed at the wailing babe.
Shh, little one, you're safe now.
She traced a soothing caress down the baby's cheek. On pure instinct, a tiny hand shot out and lashed onto her finger with surprising strength. The woman smiled as the child's cries subsided, its grasp on her never slackening even as it slipped back to sleep. Carefully moving the basket to rest in her lap, she settled into a more secure position on Sophie's back.
Let's go home, Sophie. We've got a boy to raise.
A 16-year-old boy with short red hair and piercing green eyes gritted his teeth, pushing himself to the absolute limit as he chased down a horned rabbit.
No matter what, I will catch that rabbit,
Lux vowed silently, legs pumping furiously.
I can't fail, not again.
A crowd of children and adults lined the makeshift raceway, cheering raucously. They'd seen the determined boy take on this trial time and again over the years, never quite succeeding, but always getting back up to try once more. They fervently hoped that this would be the day Lux triumphed. Pain lanced through the young man's chest with each labored breath, but he ruthlessly ignored the stabbing ache, running like his very life depended on victory. From a distant hilltop, an elderly woman perched atop a placid white hippopotamus watched the race unfold, face set into a mask of calm. But beneath the serene facade, worry for her adopted grandson churned. Lux roared as he lunged, hand shooting out to snatch the fluffy white tail now just within reach.
You're mine!
He'd painstakingly closed the distance, pouring every ounce of strength and speed into one last titanic effort. And then his world spun sickeningly. Darkness crashed over him between one bounding step and the next. Lux hit the ground face first and lay terribly, utterly still. Between one blink and the next, Vera appeared at her grandson's side. With infinite tenderness, she rolled the boy onto his back, hands trembling. Lux's face was a ruin. Livid bruises and freely bleeding cuts littered his brow, cheeks, and chin. Blood flowed in a steady stream from where he'd bitten clean through his lower lip. Vera's breath caught, heart clenching at the pitiful sight.
Oh, Lux, my silly, reckless boy, why do you insist on pushing yourself to such extremes?
Fumbling for the pouch at her waist with shaking hands, the crone withdrew a small crystal vial. She carefully tipped the contents over Lux's mangled head and face. The healing potion went to work immediately, erasing the brutal evidence of Lux's latest failed attempt. Sighing gustily, Vera gathered the boy's limp body into her arms. A man of middling years approached the pair, his kind face lined with sympathy and regret as he took in Lux's battered form.
Vera,
he started, then paused as if searching for gentler words. Finding none, he squared his shoulders and met the woman's eyes. I cannot approve Lux's admission to Elysium. Sending him into such a hostile environment would be akin to a death sentence. The boy has a heart of gold and an unmatched work ethic, but his place is here, in Wildguard. Vera hung her head, defeatedly slumping her shoulders. A bitter chuckle escaped her lips.
I know, Gerald, you're right. Thank you for giving him this chance, futile as it was.
She bowed shallowly, mindful of her precious cargo, before turning and shuffling back toward the waiting Sophie. All around, the villagers sighed and shook their heads, equal parts pity and resignation.
Another year our Lux won't see Elysium.
Poor kid trains himself ragged, but that body of his just can't keep up.
It's a shame, but maybe it's for the best. This way we won't lose him for good. Wildguard will always be his home.
True, he may have been born sickly, but Lux has a strong spirit, and that matters more than physical strength, especially somewhere like Elysium that's killed far hardier men. Lux cracked swollen eyelids and found himself staring up at the familiar ceiling of his own room. He flung his arm over his face to hide the hot tears of shame that fell down his face. I failed again. Why was I born so weak and useless? The others passed their Elysium trials at 14. I'm 16, and still nothing but a burden. What's the point of my existence? Wasn't I supposed to make something of this life Grandma Vera gave me? Make her proud? Prove raising me wasn't a mistake? Lux's tears flowed unchecked, soaking his pillow as helplessness crashed over him in suffocating waves. I try so hard, push myself to the breaking point, and for what? This cursed body always betrays me. The mysterious illness that plagued him was the bane of Lux's life. He could be doing nothing more strenuous than standing still and the world could tilt crazily. Seconds later, unconsciousness would claim him, leaving him in a crumpled heap. Because of the unpredictable fainting spells, Lux had never been able to train properly. It was too dangerous. He'd lost count of the injuries he'd sustained or accidentally inflicted on others when his body failed him. At 12, he'd begun basic combat training alongside his peers, head full of dreams of the adventures they'd share in the Elysium Fields, or Elysium for short. The world's primary source of resources. Only those that had met the necessary requirements were allowed to enter this special place and help their stronghold expand in that strange yet beautiful world that was so different from the world in which they resided. But reality had been a cruel awakening for Lux. Swordsmanship? Banned. After one too many collapses left him sliced by his own blade, or nearly impaling other students when he blacked out mid-strike. Endurance running? Endless scraped knees, bloodied elbows, and minor concussions. His friend's patience with carrying his unconscious body back from the trails quickly evaporated. Archery was the final straw. Lux still cringed, remembering how treacherous fingers lost a bowstring mid-feint, putting an arrow in the instructor's buttock. I was threatened with execution if I so much as looked at the targets again. As a last resort, Lux begged his grandmother to train him personally. Surely with Wildguard's most legendary retired adventurer guiding him, he could overcome his weakness. But even Vera couldn't compensate for a body that simply wouldn't cooperate. After too many near brushes with death, she put her foot down.
Little sapling, I know your spirit burns to prove yourself, but being a warrior isn't your destiny, and there's no shame in that.
Lux nodded, face schooled into acceptance, but inside he screamed denial. All he wanted was to be like everyone else and head to Elysium. He wanted to make his grandma proud by becoming a high ranker and to prove to her that she hadn't wasted her time raising him from infancy. So he threw himself into training thrice as hard, all in secret. The village quickly grew used to the daily sights of his friends dragging his bruised and bloody form home when he inevitably overextended himself. I'll reach Elysium on my own. I have to. It's my only chance to make something of myself. Lux's mind drifted to thoughts of Elysium, that wondrous otherworld that appeared after the catastrophic 100-Year War, where even the lowliest peasant could seize fame and fortune beyond imagination. The realm was rumored to hold the key to undoing the destruction that had crippled Salias after the war. Was it any wonder people from every corner of the land leaped at the chance to test themselves there? To carve out a better tomorrow for their struggling families with nothing but their wits, will, and a trusty sword? If only I hadn't been born with this wretched, traitorous body, Lux thought bitterly, glaring at his upturned palms. What I wouldn't give for just one chance to prove my worth. But cruel fate had never afforded him that opportunity. Once again, his physical failings shackled him, forever barring him from his heart's desire. Lux murmured to himself as a fresh tear traced down his cheek. I guess some dreams aren't meant to be. No matter how much you want them. Elysium, it's beyond my reach. I need to accept. Oh, don't tell me you're giving up now. Lux tumbled out of bed, heart racing, landing in a graceless sprawl. He scrambled backward until he hit the wall. Disbelieving eyes swept the room for the source of the unexpected voice. Hey, no need to panic. I'm right here, look out the window. There, hovering outside his window, a young boy grinned toothily and waved. Messy blue-black hair framed elven features and stormy gray eyes danced with mirth. The kid couldn't be older than 10, but that was hardly the most remarkable thing about Lux's visitor. No, the fact that said visitor was very distinctly floating on air easily cinched that honor. Who? What are you? Lux sputtered, staring in slack-jawed shock. The name's Ariel. I'm the god of games, and I'm here to help my best buddy, Macwilzocheatle, finish what he started. The god of games? Lux eyed the boy floating in his window in confusion. He knew he had just gotten over his fainting spell during the promotion exam, but the thought of gods and divinity made his head spin. Who's Macwilzocheatle? Are you sure you have the right person? Maybe you're looking for my grandma. Ariel sighed, taking in Lux's complete lack of recognition. The boy clearly had no memories of his time in the heavenly domain. The damage to your soul must be quite severe, he mused. Your reincarnation went awry, which is why your body and soul are out of sync. That incompatibility is causing your fainting spells. Lux frowned. What are you talking about? Are you sure you're not mistaking me for someone else? Does the name Lucian ring any bells? Lucian? Who's that? My name is Lux. Ariel smiled bitterly. He has no memory of his past life. His slate's been wiped completely clean. Looks like I'll have to start from the beginning. Hey, Lux, do you want to enter Elysium? I do, Lux admitted, but I don't have what it takes to survive there. Ariel nodded. You're right. As you are now, you'd just die a miserable death in Elysium. But what if I said I could help you meet the requirements to set foot in that world you've always dreamed of? Lux narrowed his eyes as he focused his attention on Ariel, who was looking back at him with a sad expression. What's the catch? He knew that there was no free lunch in the world. Although he didn't feel any kind of malice coming from Ariel, he was still someone Lux had met for the first time. He couldn't possibly put his trust in a stranger so easily, right? Ariel cocked his head to the side and watched Lux like a cat watching a mouse. All I want is for you to struggle, fight to live to the very end. Whether you become a hero or a demon lord, just promise me you'll do everything in your power to survive. Can you do that? That's it? That's it. You're not going to demand my soul when I die? Ariel grinned. Well, if you're offering, I could be persuaded. Lux shook his head vehemently. No way. I've heard stories about people who sold their souls. They all met bad ends. I don't want to share their fate. Ariel smirked and waved his hand. Suddenly, Lux found himself standing atop a clear blue sea reflecting the sky above. Before Lux could even do anything, he heard Ariel's voice behind him. This is my special domain. No one can eavesdrop on us here, not even nosy gods with too much time on their hands. I'm sure you have questions, but sadly my time in this world is limited.
For now, just listen, okay?
Lux nodded, sensing he'd be trapped here if he refused.
First, let me restore your memory.
Ariel pressed his palm to Lux's head. A few seconds later, Lux's pained screams spread throughout the beautiful blue world that Ariel had created. Ariel didn't bat an eye as he continued to pour his divinity through his hand in order to repair the memories that Lux had forgotten. Minutes later, Lux knelt, panting atop the placid sea, gazing at his own reflection.
Remember now?
Ariel crouched beside him.
Yeah,
Lux wheezed.
the Heaven's Door project. Max and Haimea.
Because of the cannon's malfunction, your soul suffered irreparable damage. Do you recall anything after being shot from the cannon?
No.
Ariel rubbed his chin thoughtfully before eyeing Lux.
All right, before we go any further, let me explain how you were born into this world. After your soul survived that harrowing journey, it was too damaged to reincarnate normally. So the bit of Max's divinity clinging to you sought out the next best thing to fulfill your intended character settings. Since a regular rebirth was off the table, your soul merged with the body of a stillborn half-elf infant. That's the you are now.
Lux gaped at him in shock. Ariel patted his shoulder.
I know it's a lot to take in, but it's the truth. It also explains why you sometimes feel disconnected from your own body, why it seems to reject your will. Your soul and body aren't properly synced. But don't worry, I'm going to fix that right here, right now.
Ariel tapped Lux's forehead and a series of words and glyphs magically appeared over his head. Ariel whistled low as he examined the arcane bits of diagnostic magic that he'd just wielded.
Now then, let's take a look under the hood. Just as I suspected, your body and soul are sitting at a whopping 78% incompatibility ratio. Quite the mismatch indeed. No need to worry though, I've got just the trick up my sleeve to square that away. We'll just have to hunt down a body constitution that'll play nice with your unique metaphysical circumstances.
Lux gawked in amazement as he watched Ariel snatch glyphs out of thin air.
Why does that say looking for compatible body type?
Ariel shrugged.
Because it does, duh. Look, do you want me to fix you or give you a rundown on high-level divine magic?
The first option?
Smart answer.
Ariel snapped his fingers, and the body type glyph transformed from a dull gray color to a radiant gold that seemed to burn almost as bright as the sun.
Aha! Here we are. The Immortal Conqueror's legacy physique. That should slot in nice and neat. Just need to resynchronize everything first.
Without so much as a warning, Ariel took the newly formed glyph and pushed it into Lux's head. Lux gasped as phantom text began scrolling behind his eyes, Ariel narrating the process.
And we're off to the races. Compatibility's already jumped to 18%, 39%, 78%, and we've hit 100%, folks. Ding, ding, ding! We have a winner! Let's hear it for the Immortal Conqueror's legacy, Lux's spiffy new body constitution. Wear it in good health, my boy.
Brilliant flames engulfed Lux from head to toe, incinerating his clothes to ash in an instant.
Oh, what the hell?
Lux yelped, frantically swatting at the blaze, but there was no searing pain, no acrid stench of charring flesh. Instead, a soothing warmth diffused through him from skin to marrow. It defied description, that sensation, like every cell in his body was being gently unmade and then re-knit into a more perfect version of itself. Old weaknesses and impurities sloughing away. As the flames flickered out, Lux found himself sitting cross-legged in midair, eyes closed as he reveled in the afterglow of rebirth. For the first time in his life, his body felt truly his, responsive and free of the shackles that always weighed him down.
This is incredible,
Lux marveled, flexing his hands.
I feel like I could take on that trial again right now and actually have a shot at winning.
When Lux opened his eyes, incandescent joy suffused his face. Ariel smiled, deeply satisfied.
All right, let's take a peek at the finished product, shall we? Go ahead and summon your soul book.
Lux nodded and summoned his soul book. Every person in the world of Solias could summon their soulbooks to check their progress. Only the owner of the soulbook would be able to see their stats unless its owner gave others permission to view it. The book flipped open and began speaking in a chipper voice.
Name? Lux von Kaiser. Age 16. Race? Half-elf. Rank? Not a zip zilch. Your strength is sitting at a measly 4. Intelligence, vitality, agility, and dexterity are all basically the same. But hey, it's not all bad news. Looks like our boy Lux hit the jackpot with a few nifty abilities.
Lux perked up at the first bit of positive news from the soulbook. It continued along in its chipper tone.
First up, skill evolution. With this handy-dandy trick, Lux can evolve any skill of his choosing, if he meets the requirements, of course. And let's not forget that spiffy new body constitution, the Immortal Conqueror's Legacy. It's only sitting at lowly F rank right now, with a mere 1% progress, but stick with it, kiddo.
Ariel clapped Lux on the shoulder.
Remember, kid, true conquest isn't just about grabbing land and amassing riches. You gotta win hearts and minds. Get the people on your side, earn their loyalty, and you'll be on the fast track to establishing that domain of yours.
Lux, however, could barely feel his face as he grinned from ear to ear.
I'm no longer an utter weakling.
Lux stared at his soulbook and whooped from the core of his being, excitement thrumming through him. Ariel, the god of games, had just fixed his body's incompatibility and undid the mental block that had made him forget all about Max and the Heaven's Door project. And while base stats remained unchanged from before Ariel fixed him, Lux's special ability and unique body constitution were entirely new additions. Finishing his appraisal, Lux seized Ariel's hand, bowing repeatedly as effusive thanks tumbled from his lips.
Thank you. With this, I can finally repay Grandma for raising me. I'm not useless anymore.
Ariel smiled at the passionate display of gratitude.
Lux, I think you're misunderstanding something. Those abilities were yours right from the start. But the damage your soul suffered in the heavenly realm prevented you from using the blessings Maxwell-Xochitl bestowed. I merely set things right.
Lux met Mariel's eyes steadily, hands still clasped around the deity's smaller ones.
Even so, without your help, Max's legacy would have been lost. If there's ever anything I can do for you, just say the word. I'll move mountains to make it happen.
Something flickered across Ariel's face at the earnest declaration, there and gone too fast to parse.
Well, as it happens, I do have a task for you. But you'll need to earn your way into Elysium first. Sinking your body and soul was a good start, but you're still miles behind your peers.
Lux deflated a bit at the reminder, but Ariel barreled on, pulling his hand away from Lux and affecting a cool composition.
Lucky for you, I'm feeling generous. How familiar are you with gacha games?
Lux blinked. You mean those rigged cash grabs where whales blow their savings hunting rare characters and items so they can steamroll everything? Ariel coughed.
That's, one way to look at it. But I was thinking more along the lines of...
Lux snarled in annoyance, interrupting the god.
So they can grieve the rest of us in player versus player matches? Those damn pay-to-win tryhards thinking they're better than us free-to-play folks just because they can throw money at the game until they win?
Ariel rolled his eyes and muttered to himself.
Whoo, boy. Tell me how you really feel. Listen, Lux, it's not a crime to... Games should be about skill, not who's got the fattest wallet.
Lux crossed his arms with a huff.
But I guess that's too much to expect from devs these days. Gotta squeeze every last cent out of the player base, balance be damned.
Ariel looked at Lux with a pitiful gaze. Although he didn't say a word, his another salty free-to-play player gaze made the red-headed boy's liver itch. Shaking his head, the diminutive deity summoned a shimmering golden ticket.
Anyway, the reason I brought it up is because I'm giving you a free pass for the Cosmic Gotcha. You'll score a guaranteed SSR item, a weapon, artifact, or character.
Lux's eyes widened, righteous indignation evaporating.
You're not pulling my leg? An honest-to-God's SSR freebie? No strings attached?
Yes. I'm sure you already know that there are 3 types of rarity that you can pull from these sorts of games. You know, ranging from rare, super rare, to super, super rare, which we must call SSR for short. And if we were to talk about this in terms used in this world, we'd be calling them rare items, which are blue, and purple items that are called uniques, and golden items that are mythical. Oh, and even more good news, you can use your winnings in Elysium and here in Solias. Lex gulped and reverently accepted the golden ticket. Ariel leaned back, amused. Well, give it a whirl, kid. Lux closed his eyes. Ticket clasped between interlaced fingers like a talisman. Drawing a fortifying breath, he tossed the gleaming rectangle skyward. The ticket exploded in a supernova of golden radiance. From the fading embers, 10 lambent orbs in red, blue, and gold drifted down to form a loose carousel around Lux. He counted 5 blues, 3 purples, and 2 shimmering gold. Lux grinned like a fool. Gold means mythic rarity. Let's see what I got. Tentatively touching one golden sphere, he gasped as it morphed into an exquisitely engraved tome. A luminous screen shimmered into being between Lux and Ariel. Lines of glowing text began to scroll across its surface. Eyes wide, Lux read aloud. Elysium Grand Compendium. Rarity, mythical. Contents include comprehensive information on monster drops and den locations, hidden treasure troves, complete flora and mineralogical indexes, crafting guides. Lux trailed off, eyes round as saucers. Basically, it's got everything. Maps, recipes, tips and tricks, the works. Ariel whistled. Oh boy, you really lucked out with that pull, kid. That compendium is basically a strategy guide for Elysium. If word got out you had it, every faction on the continent would be tripping over themselves to take it off your hands. By force if needed. Lux gulped, clutching the book protectively. I'll, be sure to keep it under wraps then. Turning to the second golden orb with bated breath, he reached out and yanked his hand back like he'd been scalded as the sphere stretched and warped, and then, with a rattling thud, formed into an ominous black coffin crowned with a golden cross. Oh, what the hell? Lux yelped, scrambling away. Or rather, he tried to, but a small hand clamped on his shoulder like a vice, effortlessly holding him in place. Oh, unclench, Ariel chided, a wry twist to his lips. It's empty. Well, for now anyway. At Lux's uncomprehending stare, the deity sighed. Touch the coffin and see for yourself. I wouldn't say you lucked out again, but honestly, jury's still out on that. Shooting Ariel a dubious look, Lux nonetheless reached out and grazed trembling fingertips over polished ebony. And another screen sprang into being, pale blue light illuminating angular characters. Lux hesitantly read the words aloud. Blackfire, Oath of Eternal Glory, Rarity Mythical, Creatures in Storage, 0 out of 4? Aha, now that's the important bit. Ariel cleared his throat. See, this beauty can hold up to 4 fallen creatures at a time. Give it a dead body, or one right at death's door, and it'll spit out a shiny new servant for you. We're talking high-spec undead, fairies, demons, elementals, even the occasional angel if the dice rolls in your favor. Lux boggled at the floating deity. It can what? You heard me, Ariel smirked. Feed it corpses, get souped up minions in return, and if you really want to tip the odds, toss some beast cores in there as an offering. The higher grade the core, the better your chances of scoring, say, a vampire lord instead of a base model bloodsucker. Holy shit. As a final cherry on top, each creature you transform has a 1 in 4 shot at developing the potential to evolve even further. You'll have to figure out how to tap into that on your own, but trust me, the results will be more than worth it. A shark-like grin split Ariel's cherubic face. Exciting, right? Just imagine rolling into battle with the baddest entourage Elysium's ever seen. Lux shook his head slowly, his brain still struggling to process. This is insane. How is something this busted even allowed? There've gotta be limits, right? Some kind of drawback to keep it from being the biggest balance breaker in history?
Ariel shrugged.
I mean, the 4-creature cap is a pretty hard limit. Exceed that and you'll have to kick one of your posse to the curb. Fair warning, the coffin's enslavement enchantment only holds while they're bound to it. If you give one the boot, all bets are off regarding loyalty. Oh, and I guess there's the revival cost to consider too, the deity added as an afterthought. You know, just in case one of your shiny new battle buddies eats it out there, the stronger they are, the more beast cores you'll need to pony up to earn that res.
Lux could only nod dumbly, committing every word to memory even as his mind lurched into overdrive imagining the possibilities. Because even though there were limitations to the number of creatures it could store, it didn't change the fact that it would allow Lux to have strong allies that would help him on his journey through the world of Elysium.
It is indeed a good artifact,
Ariel commented, eyeing the black coffin approvingly.
But remember, you'll need to hit certain stat benchmarks before you can actually put it to use. So keep that nose to the grindstone, yeah?
Lux nodded, his attention already drifting to the trio of purple orbs orbiting him. Reaching out at random, his fingers brushed one shimmering sphere, and a sleek black sword materialized in his grip, its midnight blade adorned with pulsing runic sigils. Giving the weapon an experimental twirl, Lux noted its pleasing weight and balance.
Not bad,
he mused, settling into a basic ready stance.
It's a touch heavier than the wood trainers back home, but nothing I can't handle.
Lux might be the Stronghold's problem child when it came to combat drills, but he still picked up the fundamentals. In a settlement where every able body was expected to someday test their mettle in Elysium, nobody skipped out on the basics.
All right, let's see what you can do.
Another floating screen winked into existence.
Oathbreaker, Dark Blade of Eternity,
Lux read aloud, a grin tugging at his lips.
Now that's a proper name for a sword.
Ariel chuckled.
It certainly doesn't lack for gravitas. And the stats are nothing to sneeze at either. 100 to 145 dark damage per swing is going to put a satisfying dent in anything dumb enough to get in stabbing range.
Lux made an appreciative noise. Don't forget that sweet 20% boost to all physical skill damage, and a 1 in 10 chance of doubling the pain with every attack? Yes, please.
Easy there, Stabby McStabberson, the god teased. You've got to pump those rookie numbers up a bit before you can equip that bad boy. Let's see. Looks like a combined stat total of 100 should do the trick.
Dismissing Oathbreaker without a thought, Lux turned to the remaining orbs with relish. The next purple orb revealed a plain silver ring. A storage ring of travelers, eh? And it can hold up to 300 items? That's handy.
Indeed,
Ariel agreed.
It even has a separate compartment for holding gold. Never underestimate the ability of a good inventory system. Just keep in mind that you can't store anything alive inside of it, so don't get any funny ideas.
Right. Lux stared down at the weathered tome that coalesced out of the final purple orb. He squinted at the title. Skillbook of Necromancy. Sounds ominous. Ariel nodded.
That book will allow you to learn the dark arts of necromancy. But be warned, only those with a natural affinity for dark magic can hope to master the necromantic arts.
Magic affinity? Lux muttered. He suddenly remembered that his magic affinity still hadn't been tested because he didn't meet the requirements to enter Elysium. Everyone born in the world of Solias had the opportunity to learn skills by consuming beast cores inside Elysium. The only problem was that they could only learn the skills that matched their affinity. There was simply no way for someone to cast the skill, Fireball, if they didn't have affinity with fire magic. Fortunately, those who weren't born with any affinities were still able to learn certain skills that fell under the non-elemental category. Skills like Slash, Long Jump, and Power Shot were all non-elemental skills. Anyone could learn these skills. Hence, they were often called universal skills. Some powerful skills that could be obtained from beast cores had a very low chance of being acquired. There were even rumors that learning skills also depended on a person's luck. Skill books could also be found on Elysium, but they are very rare, Most of them were found inside treasure chests and auctioned at very high prices.
Right, you still haven't checked your affinity, Ariel smiled. This is a good opportunity to do so. However, since the things you acquired in the gacha were due to my golden ticket, there is a high chance that you are capable of wielding dark magic.
The god of games took out a white crystal ball and presented it to Lux.
Place your hand on this. One's affinities are usually determined by your body's constitution, but since you acquired the Immortal Conqueror's legacy physique, I'm curious to know your results.
Lux placed his hand over the white crystal ball. A few seconds later, the crystal ball glowed and shot out a beam of light. A projection of 5 glowing orbs of different colors appeared in front of Lux and Ariel, and the god of games smirked after seeing it. One dark orb surrounded by 4 smaller ones appeared in their vision.
As expected of an immortal legacy, Ariel commented. Well, as you can see, your main attribute is dark magic. With this, you will have no issue learning that necromancy skill book. It also means that you have lesser affinities to fire, wind, earth, and water. This means that you can use low-level up to mid-tier elemental magic of the 4 elements. I'm guessing that these lesser affinities of yours will get a boost once you upgrade your body constitution. If you don't die after entering Elysium, then your future is very bright.
Lux's face broke out into a wide grin. Guess that means I won't have any trouble learning spells outside my main element. This just keeps getting better and better. Lux turned his attention back to the blue orbs floating around him, the remainder of his gacha winnings. His fingers brushed against the first orb, transforming it into a simple one-handed sword. He gave it a few practice swings before reading the information window that had appeared beside it. Tranquility, Call of the Wolf. The stats don't seem as impressive as Oathbreaker's, but it looks like this sword makes up for it by letting me summon a forest wolf as a battle companion. That could come in handy.
One should never underestimate the power of an extra pair of eyes.
The next blue orb revealed a sturdy round shield. Dawn, Charm of Timeless Battles. 50 defense, and it grants the shield bash and shield throw skills. Ariel nodded approvingly.
A good shield can be a warrior's best friend. Just remember, you'll need at least 10 strength to wield Dawn effectively. And don't underestimate the power of a well-timed shield bash. It can stun an enemy and create openings for your allies to exploit.
Good to know, Lux replied, already eager to test the technique. A gnarled wooden staff was next, followed by an elegant dagger with a frosted blade. Harmony grants a 5% boost to magic damage and comes with the Magic Missile skill. And this dagger of frost deals bonus ice damage and has a chance to freeze targets with its Ice Slash ability. I can work with this. The final blue orb contained a set of leather armor, complete with a stylized wolf motif. Oh, the wolf leather armor! 20 defense and a 10% reduction to piercing and slashing damage. This'll help keep me in one piece. Lux grinned from ear to ear after seeing the items that he had acquired from the golden ticket. With these items in hand, although he was starting late among his peers, he knew that he would be able to reach up to them in time. Lux stored his newfound gear in his storage ring, then turned to face Ariel with a determined grin. Just you wait, he declared, eyes shining with anticipation. With these items and my new abilities, I'll be ready to take Elysium by storm. This is the start of my legend. After dinner, Lux hurried to the training room inside their residence and locked the door. His grandmother Vera didn't find this strange. Lux trained every day regardless of the hour. Her only condition was that he practice inside after dark, so she wouldn't need to search the fields for him in case he fainted. Double-checking the lock, Lux retrieved the necromancy skill book from his storage ring and pressed it to his forehead. The book dissolved into motes of light that sank into his skin. Foreign knowledge flooded his mind. Incantations, gestures, principles of manipulating the powers of undead. So this is what learning a skill feels like. Lux marveled, savoring the novel rush of esoteric secrets slotting into place. It's incredible. skill books were different from the skills that one could learn from beast cores. The skills that could be learned from beast cores were skills that the monster possessed. Skill books, on the other hand, could let you learn a single spell or a set of spells that belonged under a legacy. Legacies often consisted of many spells under one branch of magic. For example, the Necromancy skill book allowed anyone to learn basic necromancy magic up to advanced necromancy magic. This meant that Lux didn't have to hunt specific monsters to gain spells that fell under the necromancy branch of magic. Lux grinned to himself. I finally understand why skill books go for an arm and a leg, especially in auction houses. Anyone lucky enough to find one of these might as well be set for life. Eager to see his new powers codified, Lux summoned his soul book and flipped into the skills section. Let's see here. Necromancy. The unholy power to raise the undead and the power to cast curses on the living. Looks like a lot of the upper tier abilities are still locked, so no summoning golems or cursing anyone just yet. I have to rank up quite a bit before I can do anything advanced. It makes sense. Gotta crawl before I can sprint. He tapped the basic summoning entry. Lux cleared his throat. So, what's the deal with summoning skeletons, soul book? The book hummed to life.
You can summon one skeleton to fight for you. Summoning costs 5 energy, and the creature will remain for 1 hour. The skill has a 5-minute cooldown between uses.
Only one, huh? And an F-rank skeleton at that. Still, 10 points and 1 to 5 attack is better than nothing. On the bright side, it looks like I can use beast cores to upgrade the progression rating of the basic summoning skill. The wrinkled pages of the soul book rustled as the book flipped to a new page on its own accord. What's this? Lux squinted at the header. Whoa, hold up. My skill evolution ability works on skill book skills too? Hell yeah! The soul book chimed.
Correct. Because the summon skill was learned from a skill book and not a beast core, the usual skill evolution requirements have been waived. 3 potential upgrades were detected for the summon skeleton skill. Please select your desired evolution path.
Lux rubbed his hands together, elated by the surprisingly positive turn in his fortune. This day just keeps getting better and better. Don't keep me in suspense. Lay 'em on me.
Very well. Please pay attention as the 3 skill evolution options are being presented. Option 1, increase the number of minions you summon to fight for you by summoning 2 skeletons instead of 1.
Nice. Go on.
Option 2, you may upgrade your summon skeleton skill to the summon skeleton warrior skill.
That one sounds like a pass. Lux scratched his chin as he considered the 2 options before him. And the final option? The soul book bowed across its spine in a manner that reminded Lux of a smiling face, a notion that would have been ridiculous during his previous life, but now made him all the more excited.
I thought you'd want to hear this one, sir. Option 3, grant your first skeleton a name. Named creatures are stronger and more intelligent than normal ones. Named creatures carry the additional benefit of being able to be upgraded as individuals if you so wish.
Lux's brow furrowed. 1 and 2 seemed pretty straightforward. More skeletons, stronger skeletons, yada yada. But what's the deal with this named creature business? How's that supposed to help?
Names have power, the soul book explained. A named creature will surpass its mundane kin in every aspect and gain access to unique evolutionary paths.
Huh, cool. But what exactly?
If you are unsure about certain terms in regards to skill, you can always consult the Elysium Compendium for more details.
Lux yelped, whirling to find Ariel perched on the edge of the training dummy, smirking. Uncool, bro, the redhead gasped, clutching his chest to still his rapidly beating heart. A little warning next time? I almost had a flipping heart attack. Yeah, I'll work on my entrances. The deity waved a dismissive hand at the jumpy teenager. But calling me bro? I'm pretty sure that's the first time someone's ever referred to me as that before in my very long, seemingly eternal life. Bro. But for you, I'll make an exception.
Now flip open that shiny MacGuffin of an encyclopedia and get all the deets you need on named creatures.
Still grumbling about cheeky gods with no respect for personal space, Lux obediently retrieved the Grand Compendium. The book fell open to a section titled True Names and You, Souping Up Your Supernatural Pals. Lux cleared his throat. Named creatures are those that have bestowed the blessing of being given names by their masters. Creatures who have been bestowed with names are more powerful than monsters of the same species and level, and are capable of learning special skills that are exclusive to them. Named creatures have the ability to evolve and transform into even more powerful forms once they meet the required criteria. Named creatures will always stay loyal to their master. Ariel grinned at Lux.
Great, ain't it?
Lux couldn't help but agree. He turned his attention back to the soul book and tapped the selection circle next to option 3. The display shimmered, prompting him to choose a name. Lux rubbed his chin as he ran a series of names inside his head. He knew how important names were, and he was blessed to have been given good names in both of his lifetimes. Because of this, he decided to give his first companion a name that would make anyone tremble whenever they heard it. Lux snapped his fingers.
Got it. Henceforth, my skeletal companion shall be known as Diablo.
Eldritch green flames roared to life in the center of the training room. They swiftly died down, revealing a tall, proud skeleton wreathed in flickering emerald light. A black, flame-like sigil pulsed on its brow. Lux's soulbook helpfully supplied a stat page.
Diablo the Firstborn, huh?
The redhead grinned.
Man, this guy's already way cooler than a basic F-rank skeleton. Better HP and damage, an edgy title, sick ethereal attacks.
The book pinged with a new line of text.
And he gets 50% better gains from beast cores? Sheesh, forget training wheels. I just rolled up to the starter zone with a souped up warhorse.
Lux nodded his head in appreciation. He felt that he made the right choice after choosing the third option and giving his skeleton a name, Diablo. After the naming was completed, the red-headed boy checked the other basic summoning skills that were available to him. The soulbook chimed to life.
Summon Skeleton Archer, rated D, 10 energy, 1 hour duration, 5-minute cooldown, 20 health, 3 to 10 physical damage, requires Summon Skeleton rank C.
It continued.
Summon Skeletal Mage, rated C, 20 energy, 1 hour duration, 5-minute cooldown, 50 health, 5 to 15 elemental damage, requires Skeleton Archer rank A.
Not bad, Lux muttered, but this makes upgrading them more troublesome. He scratched his head as he considered the resources he'd need to raise Diablo and the base summon skeleton skill. Trying to upgrade them simultaneously was less than ideal, especially given how hard it was to acquire beast cores in the early phase. Lux knew that only those who passed the Stronghold's Elysium entry test got to access the beginner's hunting grounds. There, 12-year-olds could take on low-level monsters to hone their combat abilities and earn beast cores. Of course, cores only dropped 10% of the time, and once obtained, the youngsters had to choose between using them for personal stat gains or skill upgrades. Stat boosts scaled with the core's rarity, and could grant up to 100 points in one shot. Low-grade cores also came with a small chance to acquire one of the originating monster's skills. As for upgrading skills, each core pumped up the skill's progress bar. Max it out and the skill grew stronger, maybe even mutating into a whole new ability if the stars aligned. But that was super rare for most people. Only Lux's unique skill evolution power offered guaranteed transformations. He had to keep that under wraps though. If word got out, every faction of the continent would be tripping over themselves to either recruit him or take him out. For most folks, cores just meant incremental improvements to their skills. That's what made Lux's gift so enviable. Lux shook his head. He could worry about the big picture later. Right now, he just needed to get stronger. But which to focus on first, stats or skills?
Ariel, what should I do? Should I upgrade my stats first or Diablo's? That's the choice you need to make, Lux. For now, you should think of what to do in the morning. Since you just failed the recent entrance test to Elysium, the leader of this stronghold, Gerald, will not allow you to take the test anytime soon. He doesn't want others to think that he is playing favorites, so you will have to wait a year to take Elysium's entrance exam again. I can't wait that long, Lux stuttered. Now that he unlocked his body's potential, as well as learned a skill, not being able to go to Elysium would drive him crazy. Ariel nodded in understanding. How about this? I will lend you an artifact that will allow you to travel to a beginner's area that is located far away from the territory that belongs to Wildguard Fortress in Elysium. This way, not only will you be able to access Elysium, no one will be able to recognize you as well. What do you think about this proposal of mine? I accept, Lux answered in a heartbeat. He was afraid that Ariel would take back his offer if he didn't answer right away. Ariel chuckled and looked at the overexcited youngster who was holding himself back from hugging him to oblivion. Okay, take this. Ariel presented a black ring to Lux. This ring is called the Ring of Erendite. It will take you to the Erendite territory, which is located in the far south of Elysium. Before I forget, do you know how big Elysium is? According to Grandma, Elysium is as big as this world. Correct, but do you know how big this world is? Lux blinked as he gave Ariel a random answer. As big as Earth? Ariel chuckled after hearing Lux's answer. He then gave the young boy a mischievous smile as he asked another question. Is Earth big? Duh. Then, is Jupiter bigger than Earth? It is. Lux was aware that Jupiter was the biggest planet in the solar system. However, he didn't know just how big it was. Soleus is the same size as Jupiter, Ariel stated. Do you know how many Earths you can fit inside Jupiter? I don't know. The answer is almost 1,300 Earths. Soleus and Elysium are that big. So, when I told you that this ring would allow you to enter the southern area of Elysium, it meant that you would be several Earths away from the Wildguard stronghold. Lux's jaw hung open because he didn't expect that the world he was living in was that big. A planet that could fit almost 1,300 Earths was beyond his understanding. Now that he knew that Soleus was as big as Jupiter, he realized that he would be hundreds of thousands of miles away from home. Is it possible to travel from Erendite to the territory of Wildguard in Elysium? Definitely. However, the path will be extremely dangerous. Elysium has just recently opened, and the races of this world have only explored the tip of the iceberg. Even if they were given 1,000 years, there would still be many unexplored regions waiting for the brave to discover. Also, the places you can enter are only the beginner areas. If you really want to go to this stronghold's territory in Elysium, it will be far safer to wait a year and take the test once again. Wouldn't it be better to give everyone a big surprise when they find out that you've become so strong after staying at home for a year? Ariel's playful words struck Lux's heartstrings. He could already see the shock in everyone's expressions after he took the next test alongside the other 12-year-olds. As Lux was thinking of showing off an amazing performance in the future, he remembered his grandma's worried expression during dinner. His sudden silence confused Ariel, and the god of games thought that Lux was getting cold feet. Because of this, he decided to encourage the red-haired boy that everything was going to be fine. It's just a year of waiting. After you pass the test with flying colors, your friends and the adults here in the stronghold will definitely see you in a better light. Lux shook his head because that was not what he was thinking. Ariel, can I tell my grandma about this? Since I will be going to Elysium, I won't be home. She might get worried and look for me everywhere. Knowing Grandma, she would turn this land upside down just to find me. Ariel frowned as he crossed his arms over his chest. There were several issues with Lux's suggestion, and it might lead to complications later. However, he also couldn't rule out the consequences of what could happen if Lux disappeared for a very long time. Although he hadn't passed the test to enter Elysium, everyone in the stronghold cared about Lux.
If the red-headed boy suddenly disappeared, it would certainly cause a commotion, and it might lead to headache-inducing scenarios. If Lux and Ariel wanted to avoid this problem, they needed to bring Lux's grandma, Vera, into their inner circle.
Very well, let's talk to your grandma. I will do the talking. You can just support me from the side.
Lux nodded. Thanks. If possible, Lux didn't want to hide anything from his grandma. She was the only family he had ever known, and Vera had taken care of him since he was a baby. There was a certain trust between them that couldn't be spoken through words. This was also why Vera gave Lux her silent approval for wanting to train in secret in order to follow his dream of entering Elysium.